Hey, what's up, guys? Little man with big opinion here. Getting my breakfast going, which has consistently been the same thing. I made a short about it. I put in 4 tablespoons of this so I can get 16 grams of protein. And then the oatmeal that I eat provides the next 8. I usually use the same water. But that one looked a little funky. Doesn't really matter the temperature that I put the water. It's gonna get done pretty quick anyway. But I thought I would talk about a news story that makes me somewhat political, but it really showcases why I like the idea of being a gray man in some instances. Because it's one of those things where people on the right side of things would think it's terrible. A Chicago teacher, the article says, was forced to resign for saying 2 words on Facebook, and they just wrote, "Go Ice." And the person has said, I support law enforcement. He mentioned, there's a popular mandate because, Trump won the popular vote and the Electoral College. Other people argue, the way that things are being handled, people are happy with that, and it's one of those things where people on the right are saying, they're supporting laws, they're supporting our law enforcement, free speech. People on the left are like, yeah, get out of here. But if the roles were reversed, people on the right probably would be saying, you get what you get. And people on the left would, have an outcry going on. See, I think the real question, at least for me today, peaches and cream, strawberries and cream, Where's strawberries and cream today? Don't really know how well that's going to go with peanut butter. I don't think the strawberries are supposed to look that color. But we'll open up another package and see. I mean, they both at least look the same color. If we end up sick, oh well. But yeah, I picked up all the different kinds. Like, I've got blueberries and cream, peaches and cream. I've already eaten the bananas. And, I've done the strawberries and blueberries. And then I've really been enjoying the Barbell protein bars. So, it's either cookies and caramel, key lime, or creamy crisp today. So this news story. it makes me want to say the word. It makes me want to put it in the title of the video so that people click on it and, uh, you know, it's a very popular thing, and that is Civil War. I don't know why I had to yawn after I said it, but whatever. Um, this is one of those situations where the libertarian kind of person in me is like, okay, you shouldn't be fired for that. Uh, we have laws on the books that the current administration is enforcing. Um, with a rise in technology and other things, it can somewhat seem like, they're being much, much worse than others have been. I could definitely see the argument in the Republican team is definitely being more heavy-handed than the Democrat team right now, because the Democrat team wasn't really enforcing the laws. But regardless of like what you believe in, the libertarian aspect in this whole thing is, like a true libertarian is like, you say whatever you want. I like the idea of, we've got some checks in place. We're not going to incite violence or riot. Not making, certain kind of threats and stuff like that. But this is showing itself to be fairly political. Because this person that seems to be right-leaning, at least based off the one post that they said, is in a left-leaning-esque area. And that's just, going to push out any sort of, checks and balances kind of thing politically. I'm not saying this dude's going to move to another state that is more right-leaning, because he might like Chicago. It said he had worked there for like 14 years. Which some would argue, you've been in the enemy trenches a long enough time. Is this like your last outcry of being a right-leaning person before you just fully dive in? Are you seriously committed? People start to ask those questions. And that is pretty wonderful. So, most people are going to cheer it if it's on your political side in your political area. I would say the new congressional maps that Texas are doing are, they're gerrymandering. If we're going off of a scale of 1 to 100, maybe slightly above 50%, 55%. I think they said something like 30, it's like 41% of Texas is, Democrat. And they would have like 32% of the vote, or like be represented with 32%. All the Democrats say this is terrible. The Republicans are saying, hey, it's the new map. Virginia. I don't think their map's going to pass. If we're going on a scale of gerrymandering, they're in like the 90th percentile for that one. If your population votes 47, 48% for one political party, like Virginia's kind of flip-flopped for a lot of things in a 3 to 5% margin. And the map that they want to do is a 10-1. So, between 43 and like 48% of their population votes one way. And they'd have one seat. Currently, it's 5-6, I believe. Makes sense. The party that won got like 54% of the vote. They're slightly above. Which really gets this whole, hey, Civil War thing going. Except the balkanization process would just completely tear the whole place apart. From a representative level, you're setting up dozens of states to be represented by one party. Their people are either going to move or, get aggressive in their areas. I don't know what stuff we're planning today. We'll switch for here for a second. But this is why we do this prepping stuff. Half my kitchen is full of jars. My fridge is full of stuff that we've preserved. I'm staring at, the garden, thinking, where can we add beds? We got those potato grow bags. I think she got them for Christmas, actually. And I'm like, hey, we gotta make sure we do potatoes this year. It was $3.50. It was either $3.47 or $3.97 for the 5 tubers. And they should produce, 2 to 10 pounds a piece. I know in that size container, I would be happy if we doubled our potatoes. Because we've got to go out there, put water on them once a week, add an inch or two of dirt, maybe every other week. So, I'm gonna quit rambling on here. I'm gonna quit making all these long pauses. This video, I could have probably said everything in 4 minutes. But if you can produce something for yourself, start producing it. If you have the space and the time and the ability, start learning now. This is the first time we ever planted potatoes. I want them to be successful, and if they're not, then we need to figure out what the problem is, because we eat a lot of potatoes. Potatoes are a great food source to produce. You can only put back so much food in your preps, store so much water, Eventually, you're going to need to start producing stuff. And at least where I live, in Northeast Texas, I think, actually, I can look at my watch. It actually got pretty chilly today. 39 is what the temperature is right now. At least that's what the old watch says. which kind of means there's probably a cold snap because this says, the high is 70 and the low is 52. So it's going to be a little chilly on the old way to work. That's fine. But figure out your time zones. Use Google, watch YouTube videos, figure out stuff that you can make, and start making it. Subscribe, like, share, comment, do all of those things. I'll catch you on the next one.